Good evening. I'd like to call the January 26th meeting of Public Safety and General Government Committee meeting to order. I haven't done this in a while. It is 7 p.m. I will call for the attendance. Heidi Alterman. She is here. She's
here. I am here.
Oh, thanks. I didn't know if you were going to be available to talk. Nicole Ayers.
Present.
Josh Goldstein.
Here.
Ed Camacho.
I'm here.
Brian Meek. And Diana Revolus. So we do have a quorum. Hopefully, I know Brian Meek is not going to be able to join us tonight, but hopefully Diana can. We need to approve the minutes from the October 27th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. And Diana Revolus joined at 7:01 for the minutes. Does anybody have any changes and or corrections to the minutes from the meeting on October 27th? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed and any abstentions?
Abstain.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Camacho abstains. Josh, did you abstain too?
Yeah, I did. I wasn't present.
Thank you.
at that
Sorry.
meeting.
It's been a while since we've met, so I'm having a hard time remembering. Do we have anybody on the line for public participation?
No, we do not.
Okay, well then we will open and close public participation in the same swoop. Moving on to new business. We have two items that are going to be up for a vote this evening. The first one is from the police department. Authorize the police chief to change the verbiage in the 2021-22 capital budget account number noted from the purchase of 10 Ford Interceptor Explorer hybrids to 10 marked police package vehicles. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Ayers, thank you so much. So I'm going to turn this over to our very new chief of police, Jim Walsh, and our new deputy chief of police, Terry Blake, to discuss this. It is basically a technical correction at this point, but a very important one. So do you want to explain sort of the reasoning behind this?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening. Yes, for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, we had asked for 10 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor police package vehicles. We placed that order then. As of right now, we received a notice from Ford last week stating these orders still do not have a build date from Ford, and they still can't take a guess that when Ford will build. So they haven't even begun production currently. And the pricing, we did also get a notice stating that the pricing went from $39,000 to $48,000 per vehicle. So I'm asking to authorization to change the verbiage from Ford Police Interceptors to give us the option to find other police package vehicles that are suitable, because right now we're still down those 10 cars from 2 years ago, and we're still unable to buy last year's fiscal year vehicles from Ford also. And this is a nationwide supply issue. Ford had stopped production of the police interceptor package. Every municipality right now in Connecticut is under the same constraints. So we're looking to ask permission to change the verbiage so we can explore different police packages.
So I'm glad that this offers you the flexibility to go after whatever vehicles we can get at this point, because as we've discussed in the past, both in committee and on the full council, this is a real challenge. I'm just trying to find the vehicles right now. Go ahead, Josh.
The only thing I just note, just two quick things. One, for my own edification, I remember when this came up, this was what, I think a few months ago. I mean, if not 6 months ago, I thought there was an existing contract with Ford and that the purchase of these vehicles were pursuant to an already existing and enforceable agreement. Am I wrong about that?
Yes, we did put out an order, and I have an email. I work with Sharon Connors and Darren Callahan last week, and we emailed MHQ, which is the supplier, and they said that if we were to cancel this order, which they haven't even begun to build yet, it hasn't been assigned VIN numbers, there would be no penalty. So we have it in writing from MHQ that there would be no penalty when and if we cancel this order.
Right. I wasn't asking about canceling the order. I had just thought that when this came up, I thought that the expenditure was the request was pursuant to an already existing contract to purchase these vehicles anyway. The way it, I don't know if this is a cognitive sort of, if I'm missing something, but I had thought that this was something that was a multi-year agreement with Ford to purchase these vehicles. But if I'm wrong about that, I can go back to the drawing board. I also just wanted to ask, when one of the reasons we voted in support of this package was because they were hybrid vehicles. And I realized there's a difficulty in getting supply.
I just want to
Right.
interrupt you for 1 second because the 2021-22 was before our most recent vote.
Okay, so when we, if I remember
So
correctly.
what I'm
when we
saying, what I
voted
want
on
to, I just want to clarify though, that this was before that. They're so far behind, and correct me if I'm
This
wrong.
is a
Chief
year
Walsh.
behind. So when
Correct.
we voted
This is
on
not
this
the most
6
recent
months
vote that we
ago-
just did. These are the cars that we should have already gotten.
Okay,
So this is
Alright.
just a technical correction. This has already been approved, but we can't
Right.
get the Ford vehicles anymore.
okay, understood.
I do have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Have you explored what other manufacturers, what other cars, what other packages might be available as we speak, or is this you just want you don't really have a sense at this point where you might get those vehicles? at
No,
all?
we do have some feelers out. They're the only other option right now currently available from American Car Production is the Dodge Durango and the Chevy Tahoe Police Package, which is a scaled down version of 4-wheel drive, which will be suitable. So those are the only two. To Councilman Goldstein's point, yes, we consistently bought Ford, and this took us all by shock to stop production, and we always took delivery every summer of newer cars, and they just stopped making them due to manufacturing issues.
And have you gotten a sense or a response from these other two companies, these other two manufacturers, what the cost per vehicle might be at present?
Yes, the Chevy Tahoe is at $42,000.
So it'll still be a
The
little bit
Dodge
more.
Durango is very comparable between 40 and 42. The Ford Explorer that right now, it went up over $10,000.
Okay, so these new vehicles would only be about $3,000 or $4,000 more than what was originally anticipated.
Yes, so we won't be asking for more money. We will just have to buy less vehicles with the money that's already been approved.
So it's possible you'll buy 9, not 10 or 8.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody else have any other comments or questions? Ms. Alterman?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. He might have just said it, I just couldn't hear. So are these, like the change in language, are they still gonna be hybrid vehicles or is that being removed?
These will not be hybrid vehicles.
And is that because of the cost? Sorry, there's my children. Is that because of the cost or just availability?
They're not being produced.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chief Walsh, correct me if I'm wrong, the hybrid one, again, was this last vote, but not the previous one that these are.
Not for 2021, you are
Correct.
So
I
for the
just wanna make sure.
22-23 capital budget, not the 21-22 capital budget.
Yeah, this is the one before that.
Yeah, okay. And by the way, just for my own, what is marked police package vehicles? Like, what does that actually mean? Does that just mean any available police package vehicle?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We're looking for a police package vehicle. Yes.
It just
Okay.
gives us the flexibility to go after whatever vehicles are available that would work
Yeah, of
for the
course.
police needs. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, I'll call for a vote then. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 All those opposed, please do the same. I see none. Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Godspeed. I hope we can get these cars.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, the second item on the agenda for voting this evening is from the Fire Department and Emergency Management. Authorize the City of Norwalk and its Common Council to enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the city of Norwalk, its common council, and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Revelous. We have Michelle DeLuca here from the Emergency Management Team to discuss this item.
Hey,
So I'll
good
hand it over to you,
evening.
Michelle. Hi.
Thank you. And congratulations, chiefs, on the promotion. So this is a little bit more of a housekeeping issue than anything. The state of Connecticut works with all the municipalities on emergency management issues. Typically, all municipalities have a blanket resolution, again, that allows the mayor to sign things like MOU, memorandums of understanding, some of the grant documentation that we have, custodial agreements. So having this blanket resolution just is, moves things through a little bit quicker. So again, we've had it, and really it's as long as the chief elected official doesn't change, the blanket resolution remains in place. So we do have an active one since 2013. The language is a little bit clunky because it followed an older template. So this is just to, again, basically refresh the resolution, bring it current with the current template that towns are using, and just make it a little bit easier going forward.
Thank you, Michelle. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Yes,
I
Mr.
do.
Camacho.
Yeah, my Norwalk email is not up and running as yet. Might you read that resolution again? I didn't get a packet.
Absolutely, and I apologize
I'm
about
sorry.
that. I thought I
No,
had
it's
sent
okay.
you everything to your Gmail.
Yep.
So I'll read it one more time. Authorize the city of Norwalk and its common council to enter into with and deliver to the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the city of Norwalk, its common council, and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. That is clunky.
Yes.
I have no idea.
Well,
I have no idea.
this is the new one.
What is that? Could you just explain to me what that means again? Because I that doesn't mean anything to me at all.
So again, when we do have the emergency management performance grants, which is an annual grant that we receive, there's again, throughout the year, we have some in the paperwork that the mayor signs for reimbursement. Periodically, there may be memorandums of understanding that we do on a regional basis, or custodial agreements when new equipment from the region is given to the municipality. So often, again, those just require signatures as part of the process. Again, the old one that we had on file was simpler, but again, I think from an older template, this just brings it current with the template that's provided by the state that all municipalities are using.
It
So the state wrote this language?
Yes.
it doesn't. It seems like it's missing a subject or something. It's missing something.
I just don't understand. They keep using the words documents and such documents, and I don't actually understand. I agree with that. I actually don't understand.
And it uses the word appropriate, but appropriate in what context?
Right.
It doesn't provide anything like any guidance. Like, for instance, it's the equivalent of a blank check with no
Yes.
with unlimited potential. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything the way it's written. What towns use this?
Pretty much all the towns have this. So Fairfield, again, the towns in our region vote on it when, again, a new chief elected official is named, and it just lasts through the duration of their term.
Right. I think what Ted's asking though is like, which towns have passed this language?
Fairfield did it when the new select woman was elected. So they just sit at about, I think, not even a year ago.
Is it possible that we can get a copy of that one? Because I can't imagine they passed that without amending it in some way. Because as I said, and as I think Josh agrees, that language is vacuous. It doesn't really say, it says a lot and nothing at all at the same time.
Correct, yeah. And again, the old language that we had was, oh, I can try to remember it. It was just related to, again, allow the mayor to sign any and all documents related to regional emergency management.
Okay, well, that's
So again, that was simple, but
Yeah,
it just seemed almost too simple. So we went with the trying to get in line with, again, what the state provides us for the template. And this is actually, again, literally what they give us for the blanket resolution.
would, and I guess I'm addressing this to both the chair and to Ms. DeLuca. If we didn't, I mean, we're free to vote on this. I mean, obviously, if we're going to vote, we're going to vote. My inclination is to vote no, as long as it's not going to prejudice your ability to function until we can figure out how to fix this language so that it makes sense, at least for our town. Is that I wouldn't want it to prejudice the vehement or the emergency management folks of the town in any way. But since you've been operating under one that seems a little clearer, I was wondering if it was possible to have us look at this new language, compare it to Fairfield and see where it could be fixed, and then vote on that language as opposed to
Yep.
this language.
I can offer up two suggestions. One, we can go ahead and vote on it and then, we can move it to the full council, or it seems like maybe, and I see Nicole Hare's hand is up, so I'll move to her next, but we could also table it. Michelle, just correct me if I'm wrong. There's no real time restraint on this, correct?
Correct. Again, this was just more housekeeping. So
Yeah.
the old one is current. And again, will last through
And
the
we'll keep,
duration
we'll
of
let
the
you keep
mayor's
doing your
term.
job and doing all the emergency management stuff. Councilmember Ayers, did you still want to comment or ask questions?
You said my two things. I was going to ask,
Oh.
I was going to make a motion to table this.
Okay,
And
great.
then I was going to ask, was it time sensitive? So you did my.
Okay, great. I just wanted to confirm because it was something Michelle and I had talked about. So can I have a motion?
I'm sorry, can I just,
Yes.
one thing? I think that for when, I agree with tabling it, but for when this comes around again, I think it would be nice to have in a briefing packet which state department actually wrote this language and sort of their rationale for why this language is good. And other municipalities that have passed this language, and as Ed said, if they've done any additions, just because I assume one of these departments wrote it, but I don't actually know which one did and why they wrote it the way they did. So I'm sure there's something from the same.
Yeah, and my sense is that it doesn't require much, but it requires something. And I'm just not sure what that something is without looking at it and looking at the other language from the other city.
Okay.
Councilmember Alterman, you had your hand raised. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I just was gonna say I agree to table it, or otherwise I'd be voting no if we go ahead with it.
Okay, so can I have a motion to table? Thank
Motion.
you, Mr. Goldstein. Can I have a vote? All those in favor of tabling, and please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. So we will table this. Michelle, let me know if I can help in any way to get any of that information so we can put that together for the February meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so I am so sorry I did not do this at the beginning of the meeting, but I want to welcome Ed Camacho to our committee, and I apologize for not doing that at the beginning. He is replacing Dominique Johnson on our committee, and we're very happy to have you. So thank you very much, and I apologize for not doing that at the beginning. We're going to move on to discussion now. I thought it was important to have the chiefs of fire and chiefs of police come on and talk about the budget, although I am not seeing police chiefs anymore. So I'm going to text him, and I guess we will start with fire. So we have Chief Gatto here and Mark Conti here as well to discuss sort of the requests that are coming forth this year for the operating budget. So I will hand that over to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We just came from a planning and zoning budget meeting. So we're all fired up
Lucky for you.
and everything went well. They said, we're going to give you whatever you want.
I would
Okay.
expect nothing less than the fire department to be fired up.
That's right. So I didn't expect to be on this meeting tonight, and I gave Michelle a bunch of bullet points to talk about, but I'll try to remember what I wrote. So we'll do the operating budget first because it's not as involved or complicated as the capital budget. I'm going to just round off. It's about $22+ million operating budget. And out of that, 88% is salaries and overtime and stipends, things that are contractual agreements. And the rest is what we actually operate on our day-to-day different accounts. So one of the big ticket increases is it's $100,000 for an entry-level firefighter exam. The mayor and the fire commissioners want to develop a new test and put in the money in the operating budget for a new test, and we figured it's around that price. Some other, we're buying a thermal imaging camera for $10,000. We put in $8,000 for some safety improvements of the training tower, which involves a railing, put a railing around the roof, which I don't know why it was never there, but this way nobody could fall off from the training tower. And then, of course, you have all your typical increases in all the other motor vehicle accounts, parts, et cetera, because prices have just gone crazy, as you know. So we're trying to get a little bit ahead of it in some of the accounts. The water hydrant rentals have gone up. The increase in the rent for Station 3 on Van Zandt Street went up 3%. So we're trying to get ahead of that. That's basically the operating budget. If you have any questions.
Councilmember
Question?
Ayers.
I guess I should know this, but we rent the station. Who owns the station?
A third taxing district.
So we're renting from the third taxing district.
Yes.
It's like with the hydrants.
The hydrants are owned by the water companies.
Okay.
Yes. So
I don't know. I guess I was the only one that didn't know that. Got it.
I didn't know that
No.
either, but it makes sense.
yeah, it's very confusing. You would think that why do we have to pay rent on a fire hydrant, but we do.
I remember you explaining this before.
Yeah, and it keeps
So-
going up.
Do you have any other questions, Councilmember Ayers? Oh, okay. I have a question about the operating budget real quick. But Mr. Camacho, go ahead.
No, so it's just a very small question. It sounds
Yeah,
like
go
you
ahead.
got a larger question. Well, my question was, you said the cost for the new test is about $100,000. Have you received, is this something that's going to be put out like an RFP? And what gives you the sense that it's about $100,000?
Well, 3 years ago, we paid 85,000.
Okay. That answers that.
So without going for actual RFP, we figured 100,000, hopefully we'll cover it.
Okay, that makes sense.
My question was more general, about what percentage does this put you as an increase year over year? Because I know the mayor and Henry have asked for no more than 3%. Do you have a number?
I do have that number. Problem is, I can't remember it. I believe we're under 3%,
That's amazing.
but I don't want to,
You don't want to
I don't wanna say that
overpromise and
definitely.
underdeliver. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, even if it hovers right around 3%, I think that's impressive.
Because they know that all the, that 88% of it is all out of my control. It's all budgeted and contractual stuff and salaries and all that has to be, raises factored in, et cetera.
Sure. Great. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding the fire budget? That was really, I don't know. I feel like that was too easy.
Well, you wanted to do the capital? That's a lot of fun.
I do have
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Camacho.
the budget, does that, I guess my question is, how many vacancies that you currently have, and does that budget account for positions that are currently vacant?
Okay, so we just had 5 people retire December 31st. And prior to that, the last few months, we've had people leave on and off. So we're actually at 11 vacancies right now. But the salary account includes X number of firefighters, which would put us at full strength. It's 132. So even though we have 11 vacancies, the salaries of 132 firefighters are in the budget. Now, the problem is the overtime budget will go up based on the vacancies, and the salary might come down a little bit because we're not paying for a person. But we do have 8 people that we're going to be hiring at the end of May because they're in the fire academy beginning in a couple of weeks. So for the next 6 months, we're going to have those vacancies, then it's going to come down a lot.
And those vacancies, that monies that are allocated for those vacancies for at least the first 6 months, and the salaries presumably not going to be used, will either be used to offset overtime or fall into the fund balance if it's unused, correct?
Yes, yes.
Can I just add to that question?
Of course.
Possible? Just from prior, especially within, I think was it 2021 or 2020 that we were talking about your recruiting? We were doing a pretty big push for recruitment. So are these still candidates that may have not made it the first go around? Like, do you have a good pool of people from the recruitments that you were doing before for, I know that you're saying that these vacancies would be full, but do you have like a good waiting list of sorts?
We have a long waiting list.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Sorry for the background singer. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I thought my answer was making you cry.
No. The baby sometimes does so.
So the problem with any type of recruitment list that you end up with, right? You try to interview and see the top people in that list. So the longer the list goes on, you interview people, you accept them, you reject them, they go to someplace else, and you get farther down into the list. And we're going on, or will be 3 years. And typically we keep our entry-level exams 2 years, and the Fire Commission sometimes will grant 1 more year on the list. So since we've already hired the last 8 people, I think at some point, it could be in the fall, we might use some more off this list, but it depends on what they want to do. But they want to get another one established, like for next year and going forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief Gatto, I know you and I had a conversation about this, but ideally with a city that's grown as much as ours and a city our side, how many firefighters would you have in your force?
If we're at 100% right now,
It would be 132 if you were at 100%, but would you, in an ideal world, want more than that?
yes, I am trying to get 1 more firefighter to be put on the rescue truck, which right now it's a three firefighter vehicle. Everybody else has 4, except for the deputy chief's car. To make that a full complement of 4 people would really benefit the operations of that company. It's very, very specialized company because they have a lot of equipment on it. And the training and everything is really extensive on their part. But like when you have a structure fire right now, their main job is to search and rescue. They could perform that faster with another person and a lot safer with another person. And they would be able to actually respond to different types of medical calls with 4 people as opposed to 3 people. We have not had a firefighter increase since 2011. So we had 132 at 2011.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because that was going to be my follow-up question, which was a staggering number that you had mentioned to me in our meeting. And I just want to reiterate, it's been since 2011 since there's been an increase in force for the fire department, and we have exponentially grown as a city. So I want everybody to just think about that.
It's a really good point.
So just to give you an example, in 2021, we had 7,678 calls. In 2022, we had 8,591. That's an increase of 913 calls. And the rescue truck went on 1,300. Just them went on 1,300 calls. So we're busy. We have our call volume is going up. The city's growing, and it would be great to get that extra 4th person on the rescue truck.
You know what that just made me, Rick, think of, Chair? I'm so sorry if I cut
Yeah,
anyone.
go ahead, Ms. Revolus.
I'm so sorry, but you do bring up a very valiant point about this, especially with the way, you know how I am about ownership, whatever, right? But the way that we're increasing, so these are multi-unit high-rise developments that would definitely need more bodies as emergency firefighters incur any fire disasters, or the way that the calls come in for, if 911, EMT and fire departments show up for all types of emergencies, whatever. But the way that the emergency will be had, especially when we're developing multi-unit homes that are high rises, that literally does put an extreme need on an increase in our police department. I just want to kind of speak that in a sense, because it's to the just the way we're growing, not the fact that we just grow, but the way we're growing vertically, right?
Councilmember Revolus, that's actually the reason this conversation started. So I'm glad you brought that up. I had asked, with all the developments coming about in our city, about the fire marshal's department, are they staffed well enough? And are we staffed well enough on the force? And that's sort of how that came out. Mr. Camacho.
Chief Gatto, is it fair to say that the new construction, the waypoints, the head of the harbor, and all those buildings, all those high-rise, high-density construction, is it fair to say that they are more I wouldn't say fire resistant, but they are required to have sprinklers and fire doors and all kinds of stuff, so that in effect they're safer than older construction?
Well, they are required by code to, like you say, have sprinklers and more smoke detectors, et cetera. I wouldn't say that they're safer. If a fire was to get going, it could definitely overwhelm one sprinkler head or a couple of sprinkler heads that go off. They use very lightweight dimensional lumber. They don't use the heavy timbers like they used to do in the old days. But the early warning is very important. So if we're notified early enough, we can keep the event, small.
Chief, if I can add on to that, as well as with the 4 firefighters, good evening, everybody, is
one thing we had mentioned as well is with adding 4 firefighters, there's there's basically a 2-and-2 rule of OSHA rule where we can operate as a buddy system. One person can't operate by themselves. So our truck companies right now have 4 firefighters, and we are able to split those companies up and get essentially twice the work done, especially in search and rescues, which speaks to the higher volume of, in the multiple dwellings that we're having in the waypoints, like you mentioned. The rescue company with 3 people, we can't effectively split them up. And now what they do is that sort of doubles the work capacity of that company just by adding that one person full time. That's part of exactly what we're talking about with the search and rescue capacity, if that makes sense to understand that,
Definitely.
how we operate.
Councilmember Goldstein, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, all I was gonna say to sort of supplement Councilman Camacho's question, and by the way, thank you, Madam Chair, was when in terms of the analytics, when calls come in, is the data split up by the type of residence or commercial property or what have you? I mean, could it be literally printed out and say, X percentage of our calls were to commercial facilities, X percentage were to apartment buildings, X percentage were to single, homes? I just always wanted to know the answer to this, but I don't actually know.
We
Well, Mark,
could definitely provide that, supply you with that information. We have that call because we classify all of our buildings. There's an NFPA code for each building, so we can get you that breakdown. What you'll find is your multiple dwellings, and this is actually countrywide, will always have the most potential for fires.
And when you say multiple dwellings, are you talking about?
I'm sorry,
duplexes?
basically more than, so what the classification would be is you'll have they call it a 1 or a 2 family home, right? And then after that, 3 or more is considered a multiple dwelling home. And that's where our inspectors go in, and that's where they inspect. A 3 family or 3 apartment, home would be considered a multiple dwelling. What we do is we then further classify those as high hazards, where a waypoint where you're dealing with a huge amount of life inside one building, and area to cover as well.
Just one
All
more.
right, go ahead, Mr. Camacho.
When I lived at Waypoint for 2 years, there was a false alarm almost weekly. I mean, it was just insane. At 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. So that presents a burden on your staff as well, not just responding to a fire, but more to the point in the case of at least Waypoint, responding to a lot of false alarms. Is that still the case? And is there some way to, if it is the case, is there some way to fix that or to mitigate that?
It's getting better. When you have any new type construction, especially with sprinklers and fire pumps, there's different settings in their system. So they have to get their balance between the dry system, wet system. There's tamper switchers. There's a high speed. A low pressure warning and a high pressure warning. You'll get fluctuations in water pressure in the middle of the night that will set off an alarm. And specific to Waypoint, that has been declining, those false alarms based on that. A lot of people will interpret somebody who burnt their toast and the alarm went off as a false alarm. That's not a false alarm. That is, the system is working the way it's designed to work. So it's a nuisance for everybody, for sure. But you can't blame the system because, somebody created smoke in their apartment and sent off the smoke detector. But so yeah, the balance between especially on new constructions, we get alarms all the time, and it just seems to be a detector that's not wired right, or it keeps going off, that kind of thing. So the bugs have to get worked out, and it may take, some time.
Any other questions or comments for Chief Gatto or Deputy Chief Conti?
No, we just want to say thank you, or at least I just want to say thank you, for coming and telling me, us and the public, all of this. This is very helpful.
I think it's really important to have these conversations about the budget because obviously we're in budget season and we need to talk about finances, but I think there's always a story behind the budget requests, especially things like this for fire and police. That is really important to show why it's a need and how it's going to help keep our public safe. So I really appreciate you coming and offering that information, Chief Gatto.
You're welcome. Do you want to hear about the Capitol or?
I think
not?
we'll save the Capitol for another night.
Okay,
It's a doozy, so
yeah.
yeah.
All right, just let us know.
I will for sure. Thank you so much. We will do that though soon. We're just going to work on operating for now.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much for listening.
Anytime.
Thank you for your
Thank you very
support.
much.
Have a good night.
You
Thank
too. We appreciate you. So
Thank
we
you.
have Chief Walsh back on the line, who's going to give us hopefully a quick overview of the police operating budget requests that are coming down the pipeline for us and allow you to ask any questions that you might have. So Chief Walsh, are you there? Or not? Un momento. Originally he had hopped off and said we would do it in February, but then he said he was coming back. So I just want to make sure I see he's on, but he's maybe not right there. So let me just give him 1 minute.
Sorry,
texting.
I'm right here. I was
Okay.
talking, but it was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. We couldn't see.
I had
your
to step
mute
out of the
button.
office.
No
I
worries.
got-
I know you're busy. So I was just saying you're back and we were going to get maybe a brief overview from you on the operating budget requests coming down the pipeline for the police department.
For the operating, I was more prepared to do the capital tonight.
You can do
That's what
capital
the-
if you'd like. That's fine.
In regards to our capital budget request for next year, the first item would be 2 outboard engines to replace the existing engines on Marine 2. The engines are quite old. They have several thousand hours on them. That's how you determine the age of an outboard engine. Is not mileage, it's hours. And last year we had some mechanical issues with that, which forced it to be down for quite a few weeks. What we're looking to do is replace those engines. It is a boat that is in need of 2 engines. It runs with 2 engines. So the price for those is approximately $95,000. So that would be item number 1. The second item is the replacement of our current prisoner van. Earlier this year, there was an incident in New Haven where there was a prisoner severely injured during transport because that certain fleet of prisoner van did not have 3-point restraints. So he was injured, and when that happened, we took our prisoner van out of service. We had it retrofitted and we had some seatbelts installed, but it's still not optimal based on what we've been looking at. So what we're looking to do is replace that van to a side entry van with row seats with 3-point seatbelts to prevent this tragedy from occurring here in Norwalk. That's approximately $80,000. The other item is the purchase of 2 electric vehicles for administrative purposes. Then we would also have to install the charging stations, which are approximately $20,000 to $30,000 based on our estimates so far. 2 individual charging stations because there's gonna need some infrastructure work to the building where the electricity comes into the building. We already work with Fred Breathenton from Building Management. He looked at it. We want to explore 2 electric vehicles for possibly the behavioral health unit and the social worker, and one of our administrators, possibly a detective bureau commander, so they could start using electric vehicles. And the normal request to purchase 10 vehicles, marked patrol vehicles, again, at a cost of $60,000 a piece. That includes the upfit for the next capital budget. Those are the items that currently we have requested.
Thank you so much. Do you have any idea how much the electric vehicles are gonna cost? I know you said there were two of them and I do have them in my notes, but just for the committee.
It's a moving target right now. It all depends on which way we go, smaller or larger. We've estimated anywhere between $40,000 and $50,000 a car.
Okay, great. I know a council member who will be very happy to hear that request, though. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I do.
Hello,
Chief
Jess.
Walsh.
Hello.
Hi. How are you around your budget? So we have been told over and over that departments are asking to be in a reasonable threshold of about 3%. With what you have stated, are you around or over the 3% increase in your budget?
The operating, I think it came in at like just over 3 at about 3.1. And you have to, and that increase included all the added costs for the behavioral health unit. So we really streamlined the operating budget this year, but there's a couple costs that are beneficial, which increased our operating budget. One of them being the behavioral health unit, our renewal of the body cam. Those costs have also arisen. Body cams, the taser package from Axon, all those costs are arisen, but we're right at about 3 to 3.1.
Okay, and thank you for that. My second question was about the passenger van. I don't know what you call the one when they go through the back, but you're going from that to just like a row
Yes.
passenger van?
Yeah, what we currently have is if you could picture if you open up the back doors of a van and there's a divider that goes down the middle.
Okay.
And there's a row of seats on each side.
Okay.
So the person in the back will face this divider. That's not optimal for like loading passengers, because if you have to load somebody all the way in, it's difficult for them to buckle their seatbelt. So if we had a side entry van where it slid, they could just step in and it would be easier, and it would facilitate the officer and the person that we're transporting more area and width to seatbelt them in a 3-point restraint.
Okay, is it safer for the officers? So would like the officers then have to sit next to, I'm thinking like a 15 passenger van with rows. So
Yeah, it would be safer for everybody. It would be safer for the officers. It would be safer for the people that we're transporting to court.
okay, thank you.
I think
You're welcome.
Chief Walsh, just to clarify or drive the point home, I don't want to get into too many of the details about the accident that happened in New Haven, but you know, when you're sitting sideways and you're handcuffed and you're not seatbelted in correctly or whatever, and if you do get into an accident, you know, that force, this is going to be a lot safer for the people we're transporting. So
Yes, it would be a huge upgrade and a lot safer for the people that we're transporting. Yes.
and I just want to say thank you so much for being so diligent about your operating budget. I mean, you guys have a huge job, and I really appreciate the fact that you have made room for the social worker and the behavioral department, because that was a big priority of ours this past year. And I was so glad we were able to do that together. Hopefully in the future, we can maybe go after grant money for that too, but I'm glad to see that that's moving forward, because I think it's going to be really beneficial for everyone.
Yes, just to update the committee, we added a part-time. So we have a full-time and a part-time. So yes, we have a part-time social worker from recovery, and she joined the team. She joined the team about 2 weeks ago with Sergeant Galino.
Fantastic news.
They're working out wonderful.
That's so great. I'm so glad to hear that. And I know at some point you'll come back and do a presentation when they've been on the job a little bit longer and let us know, you know, how that's going and maybe share some data with us.
Yes, we'll give it some time to
Of course.
take effect. Our goal is to lessen calls for service with uniformed police, and have the behavioral health unit be an intervention for them before they call the police. So to provide people with other services, suitable services, that medical services, social services, emotional services, instead of dialing the police, so they can have another avenue of resource.
Absolutely. I think that's great. I think Councilmember Goldstein was first and then Councilmember Camacho.
I actually thought Ed was first, so I'm happy to see the
Doesn't matter.
floor here.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking the wrong way.
But I can go. I mean, mine's very quick. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Chief Walsh, and I know we spent a lot of time talking with Sue Zecca and the team about getting serious about electric vehicles. And I'm glad to hear that there are serious discussions going on about charging stations and electric vehicles. I think that one of the things that we're going to want to focus on and you know, hear from you as you sort of begin to figure this out is the fact that, yes, there are some initial costs for charging stations and obviously for buying the vehicles, but what the savings are going to be over time, over the long arc of usage, especially when it comes to how much gas you're saving and sort of the overall cost of maintenance. So I'm hoping we can make the case that this is a worthwhile investment for the city. So I appreciate that you guys are, that the department is seriously looking at this.
Yes, we had a meeting with Live Green over the summer and we discussed it with Ford, their electrical vehicles and other options in the industry. So that it was a good discussion. Probably our biggest obstacle right now is just working within the building and creating the charging stations and configuring that from where the electricity goes into the building and where we could put these charging stations and park the cars.
And I am by no means anti-electric, but I just want to set expectations correctly for the police department and for this committee and the public. We run our vehicles, our patrol vehicles 24 hours a day. So to go to a full fleet of hybrid or electric is not, we're not there yet. So I just
No,
wanted to
absolutely
share,
not.
yeah, the request and the expectations as we move forward, but I do appreciate the fact that they've requested to. Mr. Camacho.
Yeah, and I know, Chief, that you're not prepared to talk about the operating budget now. I assume you're still in the process of putting that together, but you know, in the past, I know that, and you know, with all departments, with the fire department as well as with the police department, you rely on overtime work, and that helps, ironically or paradoxically, to keep the budget low because you don't have to, you know, pay benefits and, you know, retirement and long-term payments like that for employees, so that you're able to have the personnel without having to have those out of your, you know, the extra costs. But I do know, or I did know that the most recent, I think it was Nancy on Norwalk or somewhere where the overtime pay was quite extraordinary and quite extensive among the police department. And I'm wondering, are you anticipating or are you thinking about arriving at a better balance between full-time and part-time work to, you know, because I can't imagine that the extraordinary amount of overtime pay that was paid over the course of this past year is the proper, represents a proper balance between full-time employees and overtime work, if that makes any sense.
Understood. The salaries, well, just to give the committee an overview of our staffing currently, we are authorized strength at 181. Right now, we're at 177. With the prospect of hiring another 3 within the next 2 weeks. They're in the final interview stage right now with the police commission. So it looks like we could be at 180 by the next 2 weeks. So our staffing levels are probably going to be the best it's been in 2 years. But to that note, we also have several officers still on field training and they're not viable units by themselves. So within a matter of 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to be having another whole 12 to 14 officers hit the road to help our staffing, especially in the patrol division, to also help us address some other areas like possibly increasing an SRO and other areas which are needed currently. To the salaries, sir, that included extra work pay which is not paid by the city of Norwalk. I did an audit at the end of the year because last year we went to roll call, which is the independent agency which administers and governs all extra work. So if a construction company wants to hire an officer for traffic duty, they call roll call and it goes through the distribution process. In 2022, there was over $4.6 million of extra work pay. So $4.6 million was paid by outside vendors, which contributed to those incomes of the officers. Also last year and last summer, we were probably at the lowest depth of staffing in our patrol division. Just still dealing with retention and recruitment issues, which I see recovering quickly this spring. A lot of that overtime were order-ins. We have minimum staffing on first platoon, second platoon, and third platoon. And we have logs and logs because we record all the order-ins in a manual book. And there was hundreds, thousands of man hours of officers who were mandated to work last year. So yes, some of those salaries were large. I am cognizant of that, but much of that work, like I said, was $4.6 million came from outside the city of Norwalk taxpayers. And I think there was 63,000 man hours of outside extra work. But there was also a huge demand for us just to meet minimum staffing on the platoon level. And there was also a large security presence requested at the schools post Uvalde. So since last year, our school security overtime is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I could get that number if the committee requests, but we've added a lot of security within the school systems and roving patrols to make sure that the schools are safe. But there hasn't been much frivolous overtime. It's all mandated work to meet minimum staffing, security requirements requested by the mayor and working with Norwalk Public Schools and fitting their needs. And a lot of it was outside extra work in which the city gets a 7%
Right, it's true.
fee.
And it sounds as if you're almost at full strength, or you will be soon, right?
Yes, and we are already in the process. Myself and Deputy Chief Blake conducted 10 interviews today, preparing for 2023 retirements. And so we could already forecast how many people are retiring in 2023 because they're on the drop plan. So they already have a drop plan date. There were 6 promotions yesterday. We're going to have a lot more promotions. We have lieutenants and sergeants leaving, and there's going to be other promotions, other guys moving up and girls moving up the chain of command. And we'll be also preparing. It's very competitive to get academy seats in the state of Connecticut. So we're already requesting academy seats for April, July, putting all that out there. So we already have several background investigations being conducted to fill those seats in April. The candidates we interviewed today, we gave several conditional offers that is to prepare for the next academy class. So we're managing it as best as we can, but a lot of it is we're encumbered by the background investigations, which take 6 to 8 weeks, academy seats, and sometimes, a lot of the people going for police jobs right now in Connecticut, they're being plucked by other police departments. As we're trying to go through that process, they get selected by New Canaan, Danbury, Greenwich. So that happens. So it's just a retention and recruitment issue that is plaguing not only us, but all of America and Connecticut. But I think we've been managing very well this past year. We've hired 27 police officers since January of 2022. That's the largest number in my tenure ever that we hired this many officers.
I was just going to congratulate you because a year ago when we had this same conversation, it was a very different conversation. And like you said, you were down several officers and overtime wasn't an option. I just want to congratulate you on all your recruitment efforts over the past year, because I know you guys have really made that a priority. Councilmember Revolus.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just wanted to ask a question and make a comment. I do want to state, I know that the first comment, I do want to state that I do know that we are trying to do this electronic card, but I think I just really want to probably make this a little bit known that, I think even electric card is a bit of a human rights issue when we think about the digging of cobalt and lithium and so on. So I just really, I don't know if we're thinking we're helping, but coming from the pot to the fire with what electric cars can cause for us and nationally, and what we're okaying when we say we want to go and do all electric cars. It may sound good, but again, it's from children dying in mining fields for lithium versus oil. It's the greater of the evils that I just rather not have any evil. So I just want to state that, because I think we push on that so much, but we don't talk about the dark side of going electric. Secondly, with the recruiting and hiring of police officers, you guys are doing amazing. I understand the problems that we have, but you spoke about the schools. And not just policing the schools. How are we doing with the police that actually stay in the schools? I'm forgetting the name, sorry, parent, mom,
SRO.
brain, but just SRO, thank you. What are we
You're
doing
welcome.
with our SRO? You're the best. What are we doing with our SRO officers and truly developing the ideas of the community policing part of things? May not be, top priority, but I know our SROs are heavily swamped, and we've lost that relationship that used to be so well when we had I'm just gonna call out some names, but I don't know all of them, but for the love of Ramirez, who's passed, or he's gonna kill me that I forgot his name, but he used to be a row rating officer, went to Brian McMahon. It just lost me too. But just wondering, how is that looking like? How are we what emphasis are we putting in retaining those officers in our school system, in our community, so on?
Currently, we have 5 SROs that are assigned geographically to school. We have, and they've been very successful. All of our SROs are NASRO certified, so they understand that the role is to be a resource and less enforcement. So we always strive to keep that messaging going. In conversations with Dr. Estrella and other Norwalk Public Schools administrators, we have a great working environment with Norwalk Public Schools. And all the feedback, we got an email. We got an email just this afternoon in reference to one of our SROs, Officer Eldorado, who works at Brian McMahon, in his role in the Juvenile Review Board, and how he is able to assist juveniles in the review board process, deferring them from the juvenile arrest process and things like that. So we've been very successful in fostering a good environment in that kind of outreach scenario with our SROs, and we like to expand on that.
Okay, and his name is Cornell. It just hit me, Officer
It was
Cornell.
just going to tell you it's Officer Cornell.
Because that's my guy, and he would have got me.
And he's awesome. You're right.
But okay, that's great to hear. But are we coming to a space where we have one at least designated with an office per school anymore, or is that looking like a far past idea of what our SROs will be?
Well, right now there's 19 school buildings.
Yes,
and
sir.
so there's 19. So we would probably have to explore. We've never had 19.
Sure,
in the history right now. So
Yeah,
we
sure,
may
sure.
have to, if that was a goal of the municipality, we may have to explore more funding to increase manpower and staffing.
Okay, I appreciate the answers. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations, all that stuff,
Thank you very
all that
much.
jazz.
I just wanted to briefly follow up with Councilmember Revoluce's comments. I know when Tom Keegan and I first met, when I first came on the council, that was a big priority for him to push for more SRO officers. I think it's, since COVID, it went from, I believe it was 8 or 9 to 2, and then they increased it to 5 again. So slowly but surely we're getting there. I know that we're having conversations about, the new school, how that's going to increase our school buildings to 20. And it's really important though. And so we'll continue those conversations and see what we can do to support that effort. And I think, a year ago, it was the first meeting I chaired, we did a school safety meeting. So I think it would be a good idea to revisit that topic again this year, just to sort of check in and see how the SRO officers are doing. Maybe Chief Walsh can bring some of them and some of the data he just briefly mentioned, and dive into that a little bit more, so we can better understand the benefit, although we all know the benefit, but better understand the data behind the benefits of the SRO officers in the schools. And then also maybe hear from NPS on how they're increasing security moving into this year after all of the horrific events of last year, and just get an update from them.
That'd be a great idea, Chair.
We will go ahead and set that up. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments for Chief Walsh? Well then, Ms. Revolus, I'm going to ask you for
A motion to adjourn.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you so much, Chief Walsh, and congratulations again. And thank you for all you do. And thanks everyone.
Thank you
on the
very much.
committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. The baby
Congratulations.
said
Good
aye
night.
too. Congratulations.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.